I was on the Outnumbered show today. I was the lucky guy. I enjoyed it. And we talked about the new jobs report that came out. And for the second consecutive month, while there were increases in jobs, they weren't what the experts expected. Last month, the shortfall was the biggest shortfall between what really happened and what the experts were predicting. One expert said he'd seen in over 25 years. Well, we've had back-to-back months now where the jobs reports have fallen short of experts' predictions. You know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Of course you do. Can you imagine if this were the Trump administration, what they would be saying? Trumponomics doesn't work. In fact, is there a word for Bidenomics yet? Have they even come up with a word yet? And the Biden officials are still saying, oh, please, it's not possible that we are dissuading people from working by making the benefits so generous that they might as well sit around until September when the benefits run out, unless you're in a state where they have stopped them. One of the things I said is that a group of economists from Bank of America, I don't believe they're Trumpsters, said that if you're making pre-pandemic $32,000, you are better off not working. What if you were working and instead of $32,000, you'd be making 31 or 30 or 29? I think you're grabbing even more people then. They're just talking about you hit the same amount of money if you make 32. I bet you there are a whole bunch of people that would happily not work if they would make 10% less, 20% less, whatever. This is what they've done. And this shows you the two very different views of the world and views of human nature held by the left and the right in this country. People on the right believe that people are motivated by promise of gain or fear of loss. That if you subsidize slovenly behavior, you're going to get more of it. And people on the right, they believe that life is just simply unfair, and the government's job is to make it less unfair, and to do that you have to take from one person and give it to somebody else. And what the left does not realize is that that diminishes the initiative of both sides of the transaction. You've diminished the initiative of the taken, and you've diminished the initiative of the recipient. And that is why you can't even have somebody on the left even have a discussion about the number one domestic problem facing America, and that, of course, is the growing number of Americans of all races who are brought into the world without a father married to the mother, a phenomenon made far easier because of our welfare state. Remember during the mid-90s when Bill Clinton was president? One of the reasons he got elected is because he ran to be a different Democrat. He ran to end, quote, welfare as we know it. That's what he said. End welfare as we know it. And there were two bills, pretty much identically worded, that he vetoed. Remember, the Republicans taken over the House, the Congress. And he vetoed them. And Dick Morris, one of his gurus, told him, if you want to get reelected, you're going to have to sign this bill because that is a major campaign promise that you made that you have not fulfilled. And so Bill Clinton signed the Welfare Reform Act, which was, again, probably the third consecutive, pretty much identically worded bill. But this time the political winds had shifted. And with a great deal of Republican support, the bill was passed. It so angered people on the left that people like John Lewis said there's going to be people dying in the streets. There's a woman named Marian Wright Edelman. She heads up something called the Children's Defense Fund, which is a major organization, pro-child organization. She and Hillary were Goombas. But after Bill signed this bill, she broke her friendship with Hillary. I'm still not sure it ever really repaired. And people were saying on the left things like, people are going to starve. People are going to die. You're cold. You're callous. You're heartless. Without Republican support, again, it never would have passed. What happened? Well, we were in a thriving economy. welfare rolls declined by over 50% without a corresponding increase in abortion. And it turned out there were a whole bunch of able-bodied men and women who were on the couch watching Judge Judy. And when the welfare reform bill was signed, it made two major changes. The first is, for the first time, it put time limits on when you could be on welfare. And for the first time, it put on what were called family limits so that you didn't get additional money if you had additional children. Again, welfare rolls declined more than 50%. Now, did people on the left say, we were wrong? Whoop, got that one wrong. Ooh, I can't believe we were so misguided about human nature. They did not, of course, because they're Democrats. What they didn't do is propose a repeal of the Welfare Reform Act when they got back in power. You know why? Because it worked beyond even the most optimistic projections. And that is why they don't understand that you are disincentivizing people to work. They just don't get it. They just think things just need to be fair and just because I think that they're fair and just because I've defined them as fair and just, and they just are. If I define them as fair and just, and they just are. Does it matter to you on the left that at one time a black teenager was more likely to be employed than a white teenager? Something that would be fanciful right now? Does that matter to you? Do you think maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with the minimum wage? Does it matter? Democrats have a lot of nerve saying that, well, we didn't really run down the allegation that the Wuhan, that the CCP virus might have escaped from a lab because it came out of the lips of a racist liar named Donald Trump. We just don't trust him. But you think we should trust you. A New York Times newspaper that has not endorsed a Republican president since 1956 should be trusted? Well, just because we always endorse Democrats doesn't mean we're not going to be fair to Republicans. Do you think a paper whose editorial page has not endorsed a Republican for president since 1956 is going to hire conservative-leaning reporters? Do you think so? Do you think the Washington Post, a newspaper that has not endorsed a Republican for president in its entire history, is going to hire conservative-leaning reporters that will report a news different from the way the editorial page is advocating? Do you think so? But they expect us to trust them. It's insane. Chuck Todd used to work for Democrats. Jake Tapper used to work for Democrats. Used to work for what became the Brady Center for Gun Control. And these guys are shocked that Donald Trump called him fake news. And that's why they hate his guts. Because he's heightened awareness to the point where even people on the left recognize the bias that you guys have. I'm Larry Elder.